this is Danae, and today's video is about how to succeed in reaching your goals in 2020. This is especially directed towards music-related goals, whether you want to reach a higher level at your instrument, whether you want to learn a certain amount of repertoire, but of course it is something that you can apply to all areas of life. It is the end of the year now, and it is the time where we all like to reflect on what has happened in the past 12 months, on our life in general, and also think about how we can make things better in the coming year. So I think this is the perfect time to think about what we want to achieve, what we want to reach, and then take the necessary steps to fulfill those dreams. To begin with, I think the most important thing that we have to do when it is the end of the year and we are starting the new year, and especially if we want to fulfill certain goals, is to actually set the goals. And what I mean by setting the goals is to actually be quite specific about that. Don't just say, I want to become better at piano. Be very specific. What is it exactly you want to do? Do you want to reach a certain level of technique? Do you want to be able to play a certain piece? Do you want to, if you're already more advanced and are more thinking in the direction of, I want to be able to, for example, learn 5 Beethoven sonatas, write down specifically which Beethoven sonatas and which pieces you want to learn, and also by when. Because very often when we set the goal and think about what exactly it's supposed to be and when it's supposed to be reached, our brain already automatically starts thinking about the how. How am I going to reach it? Which steps will I have to take? Which difficulties might I encounter on the way? So setting the goal is actually a very important step, and step number 1. Now, once you've set your goal, I think that it helps to break that goal down into different levels. Let's say, for me, one of my goals is to learn a certain amount of repertoire, in part because I'm performing it in concert, and in part because it's just that kind of repertoire that I would like to learn to grow within my music studies and within my knowledge of piano, and because some pieces are just amazing. So I will now break down those goals and maybe set also a list of priorities. So which piece is most important and most urgent for me to learn? And then also, when I've determined which piece that is, break that piece down. So let's say if it has 3 movements, first movement by next week, second movement by next month, third movement end of next month, for example. This is just to show you that it's easier and it seems less daunting for you yourself if you break down the goals and actually create many little steps instead of just the big step, because then it just seems more doable. Now, once you've set your goal and once you've broken down those goals into more doable levels, for me, it is very, very helpful to write things down. So I like to call this making the practice list. Make a practice list. First of all, when we put things down and write them down, we actually process them in a much more intense way in our brain, instead of just thinking about them and not really putting it down in something that we can grasp. So there's first the act of writing it down, and then second, it's the act of looking at it. So I would recommend make that list, write it down in detail with the goals that are broken down as well. So you have your long-term goals, and then you have your short-term goals. You've written down that list, and then put it somewhere in a place where you will see it every day. So maybe it's beside your bed, or maybe you want to hang it on the fridge. I don't know, whatever works for you, but a place where you actually then read it every day and are reminded of the goals that you yourself have set. My next tip is to definitely be realistic with the goals that you set. For example, I will definitely not set the goal to learn, let's say, all of the Beethoven sonatas within 1 month. When I also have concerts, it is absolutely impossible for me to do that. That's why don't set unrealistic goals that you then won't reach and that will then in turn disappoint you. Try to be realistic about what you can reach. Of course, push yourself by all means. Try to encourage yourself to, go that extra mile, but still being realistic. Don't set a goal that is completely out of your reach and that will just, as a consequence, disappoint you when you haven't reached it. Now, once you have made your list and it's hanging somewhere and you're working with it every day and you have been realistic, of course, most of the time, especially for the long-term goals, things will change within the year. Things happen that you cannot expect, unforeseeable events, and this in turn makes your goals I would say, a little more fluid. So definitely be prepared to adjust the list according to how your life goes. Don't say, okay, now this happened, whatever this event is, this came in my way, it's an obstacle, okay, I can forget about this goal. Don't say that. Just try to adjust the goal. Maybe push it back a little bit if it really was an event that, stops you from reaching it, or adjust it, maybe make it a little bit smaller, a little more realistic, or also on the other side, if you feel like you reached it much earlier than expected, then make it even bigger. Say, okay, I'm going to learn 2 sonatas or 2 piano concertos. So definitely be prepared to adjust the goals according to how the year goes and according to what happens to you in the near future. One final tip, which I think is quite a nice one, is to maybe find a partner with whom you can do that list and with whom you can actually also go through with that list. Because if you have a buddy that does this with you, you're also more accountable. So you could have his or her list and he could have your list, and then you could always keep checking, keep asking each other, how far along are you, what are you doing, have you reached that first step, have you reached that next step? And that way it can be a fun thing that you're doing together. You're feeling less alone, and also you have someone that you can talk to about problems on the way, or talk to about your progress, about your success, and it makes it way more fun. In all of this, most importantly, please remember the most important thing, and that is to enjoy life, to have fun, especially when you're making music. Making music is something that is supposed to bring joy and happiness to the people and to the musician himself or herself. And I think this is the reason why we do it. So keep that in mind always, especially when things get a bit hard or when you hit a plateau and somehow feel that you're not progressing. Always keep in mind that the core of it all is the joy and the happiness that music brings us. And for me, this thought always is the thought that keeps me going no matter what happens. I wish you all a wonderful end of the year, and also, even more importantly, an amazing 2020, a great start into the next year. I hope that you all have big dreams and that you will be able to reach and fulfill them. And I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!